takeover of the United States by a base mentality of greed and corruption.
And we're about to enter an era of deep fakes and all sorts of misinformation.
I think we do all have to recognize like this is tough.
Donors and billionaires who are what are they doing there? And then seamlessly into Javier Milei and other right-wing political leaders from foreign countries, which again is not a normal thing.
It's people who will give him what he wants and allow him to do to the American people, to immigrants whom Jesus loved.
I have to say, I'm looking at this crowd. I do not see many people of color.
On Martin Luther King Jr. Day,
Donald Trump repurposed for himself manifest destiny, which is one of the most racist concepts in the history of America.
Obviously, Trump is
vibes so raw, can't hide the truth.
Hey, welcome back to the channel. It's your man Wise, and today we got to talk about it, man. We got to talk about Gayle King, Joy Reid, and all the other mainstream media race baiters out there complaining. I got my girl Celeste Duffy in the building today. We're going to bring her up. I got a couple clips to share. We're going to sit down. We're going to chop it up, break it down. I hope you guys enjoy the video. Like, share, subscribe to the channel. Turn the notifications on so you never miss an upload. We're going to get into it. Let me bring Celeste in. Hey, Celeste, how you doing today?
I'm great, Wise. How are you? Thanks for having me.
You are welcome. I'm doing well. But I'm a little frustrated. I'm not going to lie to you. You know, the Gayle King clip here that started this whole video off about not seeing enough people of color in the clip there. Joy Reid, you know, and her, obviously, you know, race baiting remarks, so forth and so on. We got to talk about it, man. That opening clip, I'm going to let you crank this thing up. What were your thoughts just on what you saw just right out the gate?
Well, and I saw heard Gayle King's voice. There were a couple of other very familiar mainstream media personalities. I'm not sure if they're journalists, but personalities speaking on the inauguration. And to be honest, my first thought was if bitterness had a sound, this is what it would sound like. And my question is, I am unable, and maybe this is my own ignorance, I can't tell the difference between an observation and a critique and their bitterness towards the event. And I think I would be better at being able to parse that out if they had anything positive to say. If they could say, well, people looked nice. The speech was clear. He was able to articulate his points. Maybe I didn't agree with them, but he did effectively articulate his vision and point of view. If there were anything that was nice that could have been said, I would then be able to look at that and say, that's an observation. Or even for the negative things they said, I could say, that's an observation, or that's a point of view. But when all you say was negative, and not just negative, in voices and tones that sounded saddened, grief-stricken, exasperated, beat down, and all of that air in every sentence, it just sounds like bitterness. And unfortunately for the mainstream media, as we learned yesterday, the 200 plus firings over at CNN, notably with Jim Acosta, another very exasperated personality. What we're finding is that it is not as turned off as the American public is. It is actually hurting themselves. And really, for me now, the question is, why do these people insist, because this is an insistence, why do they insist on hurting themselves? Somehow when they arrive on the screen daily, it is really just some kind of self-flagellation ritual. They are literally beating themselves with their own ratings, and they are making themselves disliked. And I'm wondering if there's some media self-hate. I would love for somebody with expertise in this area to explain this type of public flatulation, because I'm watching it and I'm mystified by it, because I don't spend any time in my life. And God knows if I do, I want immediate correction, trying to hurt myself. For who? For what? Who is demanding this from them? It is this, I think this is something that I don't know what they can give them. I don't know what they can prescribe, but help needs to be on the way post haste. They need to get help immediately.
Mm-hmm. I do agree with that. I thought it was distasteful to start, extremely distasteful. You're looking at a presidential inauguration, and the question out of your mouth is, you don't see a lot of people of color? When Cory Booker was right there, there was another general that was right there in the frame as well, and there were others. And I just thought it was extremely distasteful, but it also it's showing the American people exactly who they are. And a lot of people are frustrated. I think a lot of people are pretty much done with the race baiting that we're seeing from the Joy Reids, from the Gayle Kings and others on that side of media. I think a lot of people they're sick and tired of it. To be honest with you, I think there's a lot of Black people that are sick and tired of it. There was a clip, there was a video that came out last Saturday. It was Jemele Hill, not to talk about football, but she was talking about the upcoming playoff game between the Buffalo Bills and the Baltimore Ravens. I click on the video. I was like, I'm interested. I click on the video. Right out her mouth, I'm talking about the first 10 seconds of the video. Let me tell you why this NFL playoff this quarterback battle is about race. I turned it off. I'm like, this is football. I don't want to hear this. I'm not interested. And I think they're losing ratings because they can't see, or maybe they refuse to see the writing on the wall, and they're not really paying attention to the people that would typically watch or support their channel. They're not paying attention to it. And honestly, maybe some of it is that they just don't care. They're so stuck on their activism, and their hate for Trump and anything MAGA, that they're willing to toss all their money, their careers, their networks, toss it all down the drain, over hate. And to be honest with you, it's not something, that we've never seen before. We've seen people do stuff like this. They would, choose not to make money, because the hate in them is so tough that they'll toss everything away. They'll throw their entire lives and careers away, families away. They were willing to, because of hate. And it's just unfortunate, but I thought it was just extremely distasteful. We know what time it is with Joy Reid. We know what time it is with her. But even with Gayle King, who, for the most part, she's had her moments, but for the most part, she does try to keep it, I guess, force her political feelings on most people. For the most part, she does try to stay down the middle, but that was just pretty distasteful in my opinion.
Yeah, it seems to me like it is, and I find it interesting that it is certainly not exclusively, but maybe the majority of women. It really seems like some kind of intellectual cutting. It's that somehow this race obsession, where in your case with Jemele Hill, and I believe I've said to you before that, she exasperates me. So I try never to click on it.
I was trying to give her a shot, because I don't watch her channel. It just came across my feed. I'm getting hyped up and excited for the ball game coming up over the weekend. I was like, let me see what she has to say about the upcoming game. And then right there, immediately I just cut it off. I was like, nah, I can't do this. I can't.
You're a very good person, Wise. You really are. I wish I could say I was striving to be as good as you. I'm not. So I'm not going to lie. There's no way I'm clicking on, well, I shouldn't say ever, but it's very difficult for me to do that. However, this race obsession that people seem to have really does feel like this intellectual cutting. First of all, it's offensive to Black people who voted for Trump. And what nobody seems to want to talk about is the significant gains that Trump earned in the Black community, most specifically among Black men in the 2024 election. So everyone wants to hide that. And even in his inaugural speech, whether you saw them in the audience or not, to Gayle King's point, in his inaugural speech, he specifically made an address
Yes, he
to
did.
Black Americans and to Latino Americans. So above all of what he said, or included in all of what he said all of this for all Americans. And on top of that, for you specifically, I have to say, I recognize your support. I'm grateful for it. And I'm not going to forget it. So I think it's a little unfair. And that was to the Black people who went against the grain in many cases, and probably, had to bear some, okay, that's right, had to bear some slings and arrows from friends and family for boldly saying, no, this is the way I'm going to go. I'm not going to be dissuaded. I don't care what name you call me. I know who I am. I'm standing 10 toes down, and y'all are going to have to do what y'all are going to do, but I'm doing what I'm going to do. Anytime in life people take a stand like that, there are consequences. So
Absolutely.
to appreciate those people from his point of view at that moment when the entire world was watching, and to say, for those Black people who did that for me, and for those Latinos who did that for me, I want you to know I recognize it, I publicly acknowledge it, and I'm publicly promising to not forget you. And no one is highlighting that or specifying that, because what they really is, they really want to hide you. They want to make sure nobody thinks you exist, because all of that self-flatulation and bitterness that they have towards the inauguration, which is really just symbolic of his presidency and the administration, is really so-called justifiable as long as Wise is not there. If you are a sane, sober, God-fearing Christian Black man, if you exist, then what they're saying is a lie. And so they are trying to hide you and keep you so-called in the electoral closet, because so that they can get out and tell a lie. And as every time you pop your head up and you say something, you prove that lie to be untrue. And that, I think, is what has them so exhausted.
I agree. I want to share this with you, this next clip here. Last week, obviously, they had a lot of balls and concerts and things of that nature last weekend. Nelly, Snoop, I believe Soulja Boy showed up to one. There was a few other brothers that decided to show up and perform. And obviously, there was a lot of people up in arms, about those guys choosing to go and perform, for the president at the inauguration balls leading up to Monday, January 20th, the inauguration. And there's a lot of people up in arms, but there's one clip. I don't know if you've seen it, but you have to see this clip. I definitely want to hear what you have to say about this. Check this out right here.
If you watch that inauguration, you better watch the rerun of anything. Go watch Sanford and Son. Go watch Martin. Go watch this service all over again. Delete Snoop Dogg out of your discography. No Band-Aids under your eye. Delete Nelly. Delete Rick Ross. All right, I'm gone. Love y'all. Don't you watch?
That's sad, man. This dude's supposed to be the pastor. Supposedly. Now, there's supposed to be a separation between the church and the state. They're not supposed to really get involved. They're supposed to be apolitical, at least, on the outside. Although, I don't know if you know this, but Jamal Bryant has kind of tossed his hat in the ring down there in Georgia to run for, if I'm not mistaken, a representative seat. If I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong on that. If I definitely, it's not a Senate seat. I believe it is a representative seat. I think he wants to run for John Lewis's seat, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong on that, but I'm almost 100% for certain he's planning to run or to compete against Raphael Warnock for that spot. And, it's just unfortunate, man, because the last time I checked, we are free in this country. The last time I checked. And we have the right to support whatever candidate, whatever party that we want to support. The last time I checked. And it's people like him and so many others that's been in my comment section. And when I did a video on this particular subject just by itself, there's a lot of people that were calling Nelly and Snoop and all these guys, they're sellouts and they're coons and they're, Uncle Toms and all of this, because they decided to go and perform. Now, last time I checked, these guys, their job is to perform. So, you know, who's turning down money in the music industry right now to perform anywhere when no one's really making money off of streams or selling music like that? This is their livelihood. This is how they get money. But on the flip side of that, to call these guys out of their name, to be so upset that they chose to take an invitation, I just think it's ridiculous. And those are the people that I call the sellouts. Those are the true Stevens. Those people that are chastising black men and women that decided to support Trump. Those are the true Stevens. Those are the true Sambos. Those people there, because they're the overseers on that Democratic plantation trying to wrangle you up and get you back in line. The Roland Martins, and so there's so many other of those types of people out there. And it just really, really bothers me because these are the same people that will talk about wanting you know, generational wealth and freedom and, you know, all these types of things. But when you decide to become a free thinker, you can't be that if you're not aligned with the Democratic Party or who they think that you should be aligned with. It just really, really bothers me, man. But what are your thoughts on Jamal Bryant and what he had to say and the whole Snoop that, you know, all the backlash that these guys received?
Well, first of all, I want to come out publicly today. You can stamp this, say that I am absolutely in support of Jamal Bryant and his aspirations to higher office, especially if it's for John Lewis' seat. John Lewis held that seat for decades, and it started out as one of the poorest districts in Georgia and in the country. And on the day of his death, it remained one of the poorest districts in the country. So what we know is that is a seat apparently that does not require you to do any work. And therefore, I think that Jamal Bryant is uniquely qualified to hold that seat since no additional work will be required. I'm not able to donate to the campaign, but he has my full and ardent support. So go ahead, run, Jamal, run. But as far as him saying, and I support his right to free speech. So if he wants to say to cancel Snoop and remove him from your discography and Nelly from your playlist and all of that stuff, that's his right to say. And I really don't have anything to say about that. That's his perspective, and he has a right to go into the public square with that perspective. However, as far as the peanut gallery that got all over social media, and not only just them, that the poor babies that came up there in that band who did a marvelous job.
Yes, they did. Yes, they did.
And represented Mississippi, and just trying to have an experience and to be part of something that's a once in a lifetime opportunity for them. All of them got put into this whole bag of sellouts. And really what I think about that is it really belies something much more sinister than, you know, we're making light of it, and to a certain extent, because the people are so lightweight, it's hard not to. But it's really a sinister idea. And what it says is that the Black community is collectivist. Mm-hmm. And as collectivists, whenever somebody strays or moves away or questions or is curious about anything other than the preset doctrine of the collectivists, they will inherit counter problems from the group. So what the Black community is saying in this self-policing activity that it's doing is it's actually saying that you are not an individual. You do not have the individual rights, gifts, and ability to make decisions, good and bad, for yourself that God gave you. That in fact, your God is the group, and you must genuflect and bow to the group and pay penance to the group. And whenever you don't, the group is there to scold you. That's a very collectivist and dangerous mindset. And I'm very sad to see the Black community, either knowingly or not, visibly and publicly telling the world that that's what we are. That's a very, very sad statement. And I would like to say right now, if that's the case, you let the group, I'm sure my name is on the list Just want to make sure they spell that last one, my last name, right. It is with an IE and not a Y, because you can put me on the dissidents list because I do maintain the sovereignty that my God gave me. So, and if that
Absolutely.
exits me from the group, farewell, and I wish you all the best on your endeavors.
I would agree with that 1000%. And honestly, it's a form of communism.
Yes, it
I
is.
mean, it's people don't understand this in that civil rights movement, back in the 60s. The Communist Party obviously infiltrated that movement. And the ideology and the rhetoric is still being passed down and used to this day. And unfortunately, there's a lot of people, that are buying into it and falling a victim to it. And there's people like you and I and so many others out there that are rejecting that ideology. And it's a beautiful thing to see, because I think it opens up the eyes to some people that have been teetering, or maybe they've been a part of it, but they know something's off here. And people like you and I are giving those people the courage to say, you know what? Nah, I don't subscribe to that. So I'm glad that these types of platforms exist. There's people like yourself, myself, and so many others out there that are rejecting that ideology, that thought process. And it's something that I want to see more of. The beautiful thing, though, is this 2024 election, when you look at the numbers, yes, the older people kind of help drive the numbers up. But if you look at the numbers from 50 and under, there is a difference. Tides are turning. You're seeing a change. When you look at people, Black people, 50 and under, the numbers were starting to reflect closer to what the rest of the country looks like. It's a lot of the older people. And that's not to say I don't want to hear people in the comment section saying, hey, I'm an older guy and I voted for Trump, because I know there's some of you guys out there, but there's still a large amount of older Black men, older Black women that still subscribe to that old civil rights movement ideology and thought process and thinking. And those people drove the numbers up. But when you look at it 50 and under, you're seeing us start to reflect more of what the rest of the country reflected, in the sense of we're not going to be a 90-10. We're going to be more like everybody else, where we're going to be 60-40, in the high 50s, higher 40s, that type of situation based off of the numbers. And I'm really, really happy to see that. And I'm glad that there's people like, Greg from Black Conservative Perspective, and Van from LFR, Cartier Family, and Doc Rich, and so many other, younger Black content creators pushing the truth and giving younger people the courage to say, nah, I'm not with that anymore. I'm not with those people. And I'm really, really glad that that's happening. But I'll give you the last word.
Yes, we did see a lot of those demographic shifts. I mean, everyone was looking at the map, and we saw that, everywhere on that map had at least in some degree or some percentage point had turned red and had gone red, and Black people were there with them. I would say this, though. I would say that the strongest of the strongholds in terms of the collectivists and old way of thinking is Black women.
Yes.
And that's going to be years, because I actually think this acceleration, I think that this turn from Black people is going to be accelerated. I don't think it's going to take 50 years for that to happen. I think that it's going to happen far more quickly because of access to the internet, sort of hasten a person's journey, or red pilling, or whatever they're calling it now. Those things are going to make this thing happen very, very quickly. If you look at even the difference between what was on the internet in 2020 or 2016 to what we're seeing on the internet now, it's amazing. It's amazing the number of Black people, and Black people with very large audiences that are having these kinds of conversations. However, if you notice, of those Black, not many are women. And you look at even the names that you named, not many are women. So Black women are the group that is most entrenched and set in to that collectivist ideology. And one of the reasons I want to say that collectivism is so dangerous, and hopefully at some point they too will have exposure to this information, is because collectivism views people as a piece of a whole organism. And the person themselves is not more important than the piece, than of the whole organism. So its usefulness is only such that the organism can eat from. It's actually like a parasite, and it has to feed off the individuals within it. And as long as the individuals provide that organism something with which to feed off, they are useful. And when they no longer do, they are expendable. And I don't think anybody, if they really understand that, wants to be part of something that says, I have no value of my own. My only value is to contribute so that you can suck it up off of me. And I think if Black women had a better understanding that that is the basic philosophy of collectivism, I think they could reject it. Or I think it could at least lead them to question some of it. But because, everybody's busy popping their fingers and laughing and twerking and doing all the stuff that they're doing and, whatever else, I believe often aware of this information, and it is to their detriment. Because at the end of it, you want to ask yourself, if you are the Black women part of this collectivist organism, who is it that's sucking and leeching off of you? Who are you living your life in benefit of? Not yourself.
Yeah, definitely not.
So
I'm
all
gonna
of
say
that
this.
self-care, they're on the internet, although they doing self-care, they got 9,000 moisturizers and everything to put in your bath. You better put something in your head, because these people are feeding on you.
Well, what I'm hoping for, Black men leading the way. I'm seeing conservative Black men that are strong, that want to be fathers, that want to be leaders, that want to be husbands. We know that 85% of those men are, if they get married, they're going to marry a Black woman, and hopefully that they will be able to lead that situation properly. And there's a lot of Black women. There's, Lord knows, there's enough TikToks and tweets out there about Black women wanting a Black man. Are you willing to follow under the leadership of a conservative Black man? And you're starting to see more women pivot to that, because they see that these dudes are strong and they're standing on a square. They have some principles and foundations that they believe in, and they're giving them something to. And I'm hoping that we see more of it. I'm not going to say I'm hoping. I think we're going to see more and more of it, because we're being pushed into a position where we're going to have to find a way to get back together and build those family units. And that's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing.
Well, the benefit of the conservative man is that the conservative man is a traditional man. And the traditional man and the conservative man comes to you with a list. And the list is called the standard. And so you have a way to measure who he is and what it is he's offering, because he comes to you specific list and a standard. The problem with people who are progressive are those who are just making it up as they go along. This is not to say that any man who's progressive has no standards. I am not saying that. But if you are out here and you don't have a preset set of standards for yourself, that you walk in the door and you say, here's my list. Here's who I am. This is what I think. This is what I'll do. And this is how I'm going to behave. And you can guarantee it, and you can build your life on it. I can guarantee it enough that you can build your life on it. That is an attractive offer.
I would agree with that. And with that, we'll wrap the show. Go check out Celeste Duffy, Celeste_Duffy on YouTube. She's there. Are you on any other platforms, X, Insta, or anything along those lines? Just there?
Yeah, I'm on X, but I haven't posted in a while, but I will be soon.
All right. Well, I appreciate you pulling up, and we'll let you go. Hey, I appreciate you guys rocking with us today. Hey, make sure y'all hit that like button for me. That is the only way, or one of the best ways, to support the channel. If you'd like to support the channel financially, consider joining the ARP family, or you could buy your man a coffee. Link in the description box below. Keep God first in your life. Stay prayed up. We'll catch up with you all next time. Peace.
Vibe so raw, can't hide the truth. Words so sharp.